John Donison, BBC News, on the Israel-Gaza border.
Well, for more on this, I'm joined by Dalia Dasa-Kay, Senior Fellow at the UCLA Berkel Center for International Relations. Thanks very much for joining me, Dalia, to talk about this. We just saw some very striking images of what the airstrikes have done to Palestinians in Gaza. Was this always more likely, perhaps, than moving on to phase 2 of the ceasefire?
Unfortunately, that is the case. This was always going to be the toughest stage of the process. The second stage is what really had the hard ass, which was the full end to the war, the full Israeli withdrawal from all of Gaza. And in return, Hamas would be obligated to return all hostages, living hostages. So this was a very, very difficult stage. Everybody knew it, was very worried it would be difficult. But there were already some very negative signs when negotiations to start these phase 2 talks did not actually transpire in early February, as stipulated in the original agreement. Netanyahu has been very resistant to move to phase 2. He is not interested in ending the war, it appears, partly due to domestic pressures and concern his coalition would fall if he did so, but also because his main objective, the main objective of the Israeli government to eliminate Hamas in this war has not been met. And Hamas is very much still in charge. And Hamas will, unfortunately, not release all the hostages unless it feels it has a security guarantee that it can survive to probably fight another day, unfortunately, which is what the Israeli government is worried about. So we are in this very tragic situation of a return to this horrific war.
And where does this leave the possibility for a diplomatic solution?
Well, it's not looking good. As I said, I think there were some incentives to get this ceasefire to begin with. Both sides were quite fatigued. The Israelis and the Americans, for that matter, very much want the hostages out. Hamas, just by its ability to survive, has been able to claim some success, but there was so much devastation and is ongoing now with these resumed strikes. The blockage of humanitarian aid, medicine, food, electricity, it's really devastating. The Gaza Strip is already absolutely demolished. It will take decades to recover. So there's a lot of incentives to get a deal back, but there's not a lot of pressure from the U.S. administration, which is, I think, a problematic angle or factor here, because it seems for the time being, while the Trump administration also wants the hostages out, it does not appear to be pressing Netanyahu to move genuinely to phase 2 and end this war. It seems to be giving Israel more or less a free hand, at least on the operational aspects of the military campaign.
Yeah, could you elaborate a bit more about Washington's role here and President Trump's view on this conflict in Gaza?
Well, he says he does not want war, and he came in very much interested in this war ending. But, his rhetoric is one thing and actions are another. So meanwhile, he has fully backed the Netanyahu government. He invited Prime Minister Netanyahu to Washington last month, which very much bolstered Netanyahu's grip on power domestically. He's continuing to send billions of arms to the Israelis to continue this campaign. And his messaging from the White House spokesperson today was suggesting that not only will the U.S. not prevent Israel's resumption of this war, but has the absolute full backing, and also suggested that the United States was fully consulted. So I think, there is an argument the U.S. wants to put pressure on Hamas to capitulate, to get the hostages free. But unfortunately, we're having the worst outcome possible, which is the fact that the hostages are not being released. You still have 59, 24 of which are believed by the Israeli authorities to still be alive, still held captive. And the resumption of this war increases the risk of their life. And you have unimaginable humanitarian conditions in Gaza. So we may just see a continuation of this conflict, sadly, instead of the capitulation of one side or the other. Hopefully, we'll find a way back to diplomacy, but it is not looking good right now.
Dalia, thanks so much. We'll leave it there for now, but thank you for your thoughts today. Dalia Dasa-Kay, Senior Fellow at the UCLA Berkel Center for International Relations.